Okay, so we have a rhetorical analysis paper, and I'm assuming that you have gotten to this by clicking through on Canvas. This is listed both in week 1 as well as week 2 as RASA, and not to be confused with rhetorical analysis handout, which is the document that we used to, or I used to make the slides. We've recorded, we have a recorded version of that information. This is not that, okay? This is the actual assignment. With every one of my assignments, you'll always see an overview that includes the dirty details and the learning goals. And then you'll see anything you need to know, like definitions or anything that's very important, like library information. And then there'll be a section on process. So you already basically know what you're doing here. Just a great idea to just note, this is about how the author conveys their message, right? It's not about whether you agree or disagree. The learning goals you can look at, excuse me, on your own. What you need to know, you've already learned at least the basis of what is rhetorical analysis and the corners of the rhetorical situation. This is gone over more in your handout, so you can definitely review things like murder rhetorically speaking, read punctuation's rhetorical effects to understand a little bit more. And then there's also the optional reading backpacks versus briefcases. That's in the reading file under WS for writing spaces. So the process is to choose your paper, right? Hopefully you've actually already taken a look at the splat sheet and made an executive decision. And then you're going to start developing and brainstorming. So develop and brainstorm through a specific process. Beam it, right? First beam it. Then that's kind of like pre-step. That's step 0. Then step 1 is to go ahead and identify the problem with which the text is engaging. Summarize the content. What's the story? What's the purpose? Okay? Write most of this down. Help yourself out by just having it in information. Let it be messy. Don't worry about making it make sense, making it make itself into an essay. One of the pathways to really successful writing is often letting something just be a total hot mess before you start shaping it up, and having faith and trust in yourself that you can actually get from mess to best, okay? So step 2, look at the rhetorical situation. We have practiced doing that in class now. Let's add on to it, right? In addition to audience, context, genre, etc., what's the exigence, right? What was the origin of this? Can you figure it out? Talk more about the audience. Where do you find the discourse community? Is there reference to it? One thing we didn't talk about are constraints. That's essentially any problems that you might find with the ability to get your message out. So it could be limitations of a medium. For example, right now, I have a limitation that I can only show you one screen, right? I can't also show you pictures of other things right now, just the screen in front of you. You can only hear my voice and not also music, right? Those are limitations, constraints. We talked about kairos. You definitely want to engage with the question of kairos. That said, you don't need to use every single terminology I've thrown at you. You just want to use some of them. So then take a look at the rhetorical problem. This is step 3. That means what might prevent somebody from believing what this person has said. Here we see, consider some common reasons that people reject the messages. Like, for example, often you'll find that the warrant of the argument or the assumptions upon which the argument is based are not something that everybody agrees with. If that's the case, then that becomes a problem. And step 4 asks, how does the author deal with these problems? In some ways, you can think of this as counter arguments and rebuttals, but often they don't come across exactly that way or in that format. So it's nice to think of them in a different way, really looking at how does the text address problems that might be there or manage them. How does the text use logical, emotional, practical appeals, wisdom, virtue, goodwill? These are all really great ways to find elements of rhetoric, okay? Then step 5, we're actually going to do in class. So how do various elements that you've identified work together? We'll do this during class. Now you're going to write the thing, right? I strongly suggest zero drafting, and I have a definition of what is it. Usually I give this in class. Like usually it's like you get a half an hour in class to zero draft. Make sure that that's part of your asynchronous work, because it is a skill, I think, to learn how to just quickly draft something. It doesn't mean take what you've written and then put it together. It means take what you've written in steps 1 through 5 and set it aside and then just write. So write recursively. Sorry, this is true, but writing is rewriting, and you're going to need to understand that it's going to get messy, it's going to get neater, then it's going to get messy again. Make sure you proofread. And then finally, you'll see at the bottom the rubric. I'm not going to go too deeply into this right now. Do read it and understand it. If you have questions, you can ask. Just want to remind everybody that please remember I will never grade punish anyone for a few small errors. Even professional writers and copy editors need copy editors to be perfect, or not, even then they don't catch everything. So I'll read your papers with the openness toward the labor-based grading contract classroom, and guide and grade you with the knowledge that we always strive for excellent, but we need support to get there. And that means that a few errors is not going to make or break your grade. Okay? Okay, questions next time.